let me give very brief introductions to the people who are joining me for this fireside chat. Megan, we've already met, co-founder of Net-a-Porter back in the original days of .com. Also, to her right, we have, and this is a real pleasure, Renuka Jagtiani. Delighted to have you with us, Vice Chairperson of Landmark Group, one of, if not the biggest retail and hospitality organization in the Middle East, North Africa, and India. Now, in her current role as Vice Chairperson, Renuka aids the group's visionary chairman and her husband, Mickey Jagtiani, in shaping the growth strategy. She's responsible for a whole range of operations, overseeing retail and hospitality operations, entry into new markets, acquisitions, franchise operations, and foray into new businesses, including the group's e-commerce venture, landmarkshops.com. Together, Landmark's organizations, worthy of applause, I would wholeheartedly concur. 1,800 outlets across 20 countries, 23 million square feet. Numerous awards have been won by Renuka, including Businesswoman of the Year at the Gulf Business Industry Awards 2012 and Outstanding Asian Businesswoman of the Year at the first Arabian Asian Business Awards for the Middle East. Renuka, it's great to have you with us. Thanks very much indeed. And also joining us today, Tony Stockil. Tony, thanks very much indeed for being with us, the CEO of Javelin Group. He's the founder and CEO of the organization, which is Europe's largest specialist consultancy in e-commerce and omni-channel retail. Early career as a strategy consultant, MBA from Harvard Business School. He established Javelin Group at the beginning of the e-commerce revolution back in 1997, and it is going from strength to strength. Helps major retailers to embrace what he calls omni-channel retail. His clients are a who's who of global retailers, brands, I mean, you can name some of them. Walmart, Tesco, John Lewis, Samsung, Selfridges, and Harrods, and we could go on and on. Tony, we're really looking forward to getting your insights today. Thanks very much indeed for being with us. Oh, absolutely. Founding a .com organization in '97 and still surviving today. Not many people have done it. We've got two of them on this stage. I suspect all of them could fit on this stage. We've got about half an hour to talk to these people. If you've got any questions, you can use the hashtag cards Q&A, or in a short while, we will be going around if we have time and with some microphones, and maybe you can ask some questions. First of all, though, Renuka Jagtiani, if I can start with you. Thinking about this event today, I was thinking about my typical Saturday. I live here in Dubai, I'm married, I've got two very young kids. And I'll get up on a Saturday morning, I'll go to Fitness First on the beach road and go and work out, and then we'll probably go shopping to a mall, we'll buy some stuff from the kids at Baby Shop, we'll have lunch at Carluccio's at Dubai Mall maybe, then, I don't know, maybe I'll go and buy some gadgets and Emacs, maybe the wife will do a bit of shopping in Home Centre as well, and that's a kind of typical weekend for us, and we thoroughly enjoy it, and all of those outlets are part of the Landmark Group. So we spend a lot of money with you guys, as I'm sure do a lot of people in this room, but here's the thing, all of that money we spend in very conventional ways. You know, I go to Fitness First, I buy my bottle of Gatorade with 5 dirhams cash, we go to Carluccio's, we put it on the credit card, and so on. How is that going to change? What's in it for me to change the way I do business with your many outlets? Because it works just fine right now.
I think what's great is that you're going to be the same person. You're still going to be the customer, whichever way you shop with us. And that's what we'd like to keep. I'm also pleased to see you not just buy things, but actually go and experience. So whether it's a fitness or a restaurant, thank God you can't take that online with you. And I don't know how many kids want to come online with the parent. So I think we need to recognize that online is going to be a part of it. It's not going to be the whole. And the family experience is a lot what the Middle East is about, and that it's important to keep in store, in malls. And I think it's not just about the payment. Yes, the payment method will change. And it will take time to change, because even when we've gone online, 60% of the payments today are cash on delivery. So we expect this to take a little time. It's changing, but it will take time to change.
And it touches on a wider issue, doesn't it? That many of the changes we're talking about, yes, the technology is there. Walk outside of this area and you have so many technology providers, brilliant, innovative people. You know, guys from MasterCard this morning, an incredible demonstration. But it's about culture, isn't it? It's about the way people live, ultimately, retail.
It's about customers, of course. It's absolutely about how customers are changing their habits. And Richard, you paint a beautiful and very rosy picture of shopping anywhere in the world, but let's admit that fundamentally there are times when shopping is not fun, shopping is not convenient. Say the regular grocery shop has, for a large section of the UK's population, been supplanted. That, you know, 1.5 hours trudging around a very large supermarket filling up a trolley. In the UK now, for a large section of the population, that no longer exists because they order their shopping, their grocery shopping, online and it gets delivered to their door. A huge customer benefit and a huge convenience. Equally, I may just not have the time to come into a shop, even a very beautiful luxury shop. I may just want to go online, as Megan clearly discovered with Net-a-Porter, and want to just order it and have it delivered to me. And so actually what this is, it's about giving freedom to the customer to choose how they want to shop, whether it's online, in the store, or indeed a combination of the two, which is really where the big move is happening, where customers are researching online before coming into the store, or coming into the store, then transacting from home and so on.
It is only about the customer. In whichever way they want to shop, I think the retailer has to be ready for it. It's not about trying to do only e-commerce or only one type of channel. I think the main thing is the mindset has to change, that it's letting them shop whichever way they want, whenever they want.
And there are some very compelling numbers too. In some of my speeches, I cite one of Javelin's clients, actually. You know, John Lewis is a benchmark for department stores around the world. And you can correct me, Tony, but the statistics I give, and they're such movable feasts, that John Lewis have found when customers shop in store and via m-commerce or e-commerce or via another channel, that combination of the 2 or 3 channels means that they get 3.5 times sales. Great, good statistics. And Macy's in the US have found that they get a staggering 5 times sales. So that combination enabling our customers to either research. My issue, as Tony said, is that I'm very busy and I don't have time to go and park. I love valet parking, I'm sure you've got it, but you know, making it easier for the customer. But I like to know whether a store has my size or has the product before I go, and then I go and I expect good service and information, and I can either sit on the sofa or try on the dress. But it's utilizing also click and collect is an enormously powerful thing, and they're just adapting that in Australia now, so that you can actually buy online knowing that the product's there, knowing what time it will be ready to collect, and then so that omni-channel, the multi-channel purchasing is incredibly powerful and plays, as Renuka and Tony and you know, Richard is saying, completely into the hands of the customer, their needs, states and desires.
In pretty much all product categories now in the UK, which is the most advanced or the most highly penetrated country in the world in terms of e-commerce, we're getting used to the fact that the starting point for most retail transactions is the web. Customers start by researching online, regardless of where they're going to end, either online or in the store. And that's pretty much universal. It covers fashion, it covers electrical goods, it covers home goods. The only category that's exempt from that is grocery, in fact, because you tend not to go online to research your favorite brand of yogurts before then going into the supermarket. But in almost all other sectors, you're starting online. And I think that's a huge opportunity for retailers here to really embrace that and harness the power of that. And it doesn't mean you're taking the customer out of the store. Actually, if anything, what it means is you're driving more customers into your stores. You may also be taking some incremental sales online, but that's really a secondary issue.
I think this is something which retailers don't fully agree, because they say they are losing sales in store. I mean, by 2020, I think part of the UK's sales will go down in brick and mortar, but whether you do it or not, it's going to go down. So I think we have to compete. We've got to agree that we've got to trade differently. But every store has now to turn a great experience. And that's going to be how we marry the two together. the online and the offline, and I completely agree with what you said, that it's one seamless experience for the customer. The two can not be different to each other.
And this is interesting. I was thinking about this when you're coming up with new concepts within Landmark, which you do all the time. And I think you were instrumental in creating the Splash brand, weren't you? Was it back in the 1990s, which is a very successful brand. But then I'm sure those discussions when you were creating it, you were designing a bricks and mortar retailer and you were thinking about a customer who would walk in. But now when you're coming up with new brands, whatever they may be, does the process right from the get-go involve, well, how do we design a brand that will be both bricks and mortar and online? Or are you now thinking, well, okay, maybe we're just going to design some online-only brands to sit alongside your bricks and mortar brands? How does that happen in the ideas factory at Landmark?
Still early days, so still very much brick and mortar as a thought process, but I think we've got to change that fast.
How is India different? Huge market, 1.2 billion people where you're present.
1.2, but not many with a smartphone, not many with a credit card. And India is changing in the cities very fast. We are still not online, but I'll give you an example. In our offices in Bangalore, I asked the buying team how many of them bought groceries online. A team of 40. The answer was 40 out of 40.
Wow.
Without exception.
Really?
Really. So it just shows you how fast it's changing.
That's quite significant.
It's very significant.
And when you were coming up with the Net-a-Porter brand, you'd worked in bricks and mortar retailing, you'd experienced with the Harrods and in the advertising industry. So how was the process of creating an online-only brand? The look, the feel, you talked about the packaging as well, the entire experience. How did you go about creating that, and what lessons can we take from that?
Well, basically we were reverse engineering, as I said, what happens in store, what can we give them online, what they can't get in store. And so as an omni-channel thing, we have to have that interplay. I just want to also say was part of our gift to the customer and exceeding their expectations was the amount of information they could find. And so often these days you find the online executions don't provide the customer with enough information. If you go into one of the stores, you would have somebody serving you, answering questions about the product. We had lots of information, that taxonomy I was talking about, and so you have to play into their need states. And also, let's not forget that Amazon is now talking about getting little bricks and mortar outlets. Net-a-Porter has pop-up stores, and it's actually, post my departure, is now publishing a magazine. So we all feel, no matter what, whether you're pure play or on, offline, we all feel that human interaction, and that something tangible is so important, and that experience is key in finding our unique attributes and creating community with our customers. It's just so important.
I think Megan's absolutely right in saying that, if you're a pure player online, you have to create something that can't be achieved in the store without a doubt. Equally, I think store-based retailers who are embarking on an online channel need to try and create something that where the two channels together create a really compelling customer experience. And as you rightly said, Megan, the click and collect is one of those things where you order your product from home, but then you can go and collect it at the time of your choice in the store. You might try it on, you can return it in very conveniently then if it doesn't fit you, and so on. It gives the comfort of really the best of both worlds. And actually, those retailers we see in the UK who've been doing this, very large retailers who take, in some cases, £1 billion or more in online sales, are taking now nearly half of those sales through click and collect. I mean, it's an astonishing number. Click and collect is being embraced by consumers in droves and has really moved the needle on the dial quite substantially.
And I'm guessing which retailer it is, and I won't say it, but it's in a city, which is interesting.
Yes.
I'm guessing,
yes.
Right? So there's the inconvenience of actually getting into the city, and that harrowing experience of parking and traffic and things. So, you know, one would automatically assume that click and collect wouldn't be so popular.
Well, it's convenient. It's inconvenient for some, but it's very convenient for others. If I happen to work nearby or I'm not at home to receive the delivery, click and collect is a huge convenience.
Yeah.
But you're right. If I have to battle with the traffic just to get there and do the click and collect, I'm probably going to order it for delivery to the home.
But also that store is so clever offline, because as a busy person I would go, it's a bit like your Saturday, Richard, I could have the car filled with petrol, I could have the car cleaned, I could go to the pharmacy, buy dinner, get school shoes, buy a designer dress and saucepans, you know, and finish it all, and it's that, you know, busy, exactly what you're catering to.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we all do so much today that this would help a lot.
We're at the cards and payments event. Lots of technology providers out there, lots of people in the room, I guess, who are specialists in the transaction, the payment solutions, mobile payment solutions, call it what we will. Renuka, how excited are you about new types of payment solutions, be it near-field communication or some of the wizardry that Gary from MasterCard was showcasing today? Will it move the needle for your business?
I have to tell you, I'm a retailer, so for me it's about the customer, it's not about card payments. Please, I think we have people in the room from who it would excite. It doesn't excite me, and thank God for it, because it would be very sad. But
no,
I see it as important, and but it's not something. I think I look at it as a tool, and a tool is what it is, but it doesn't change it if your product's not right. And if the experience is not right, what is the point if you can pay for something you don't want? So, to me, it's really about the product.
Well, in picking up on that, I'll come to you in a second, Tony, but we got one question in from Asfar, which isn't about payments, it isn't about mobile solutions. Asfar says this: Renuka, what is the single most important thing that has contributed to your company's success?
I think it's focus on the customer. It's looking at value in a different way. Value to us hasn't been about price. It is about looking at the customer, looking at the different needs, and actually developing product and concepts for that. To me, that's been the success, and that will be our success in e-commerce too, finally. I strongly believe that.
The focus on the customer.
Focus on the customer in every way.
Tony.
Forgive me, but I'd like to return to the previous question,
please,
if that's all right. You asked the question, what's exciting you about the advent of mobile and new ways of interacting? And for me, I see this as the next big wave that's going to drive the digital transformation of retail. And we're just at the cusp of it right now, just at the start of it. And it's creating opportunities, for example, for shopping center operators to suddenly start communicating with customers as they cross the threshold into the shopping center, and to start curating the experience for them and saying, you know, you're a loyal customer, welcome back. Here are some offers for you. If you linger in this shopping center for more than an hour, there'll be a free coffee or maybe lunch for you. You know, all of these sorts of things. These things where the shopping center operators have been excluded from the discussion with customers so far. That discussion, that's, you know, the online discussion, I mean. But now, with the advent of mobile, there's the opportunity to really engage and start owning the customer and become much more customer-centric as a shopping centre operator.
Can I just add to that too? I think WikiLeaks and Snowden are the tip of the privacy iceberg as well. And I completely agree with you, Tony. This is a brave new world, and it's exciting. At Net-a-Porter, we would have said ka-ching, you know, with this new method of payment. It was just another way, an easier way, a more simple way for people to shop, and that's good for business. But also, I'd just like to say, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And there's going to be a point with the data that we have access to, that where we have to really be cognizant of our customers' privacy issues. And we have to be very cognizant from a senior level of businesses that we have to make sure that the balance is beneficial for both the business and the customer. And when that tips to just being beneficial for the business, then I think we have to pull back, because this privacy, whilst people are giving permission now, they ultimately might not like how much you seem to know about them. It might seem like an invasion of their privacy. I completely agree with what you're saying, but further down the track, I think we have to look forward and be cognizant of that at a senior level.
And this picks up on a chat that we all had over coffee, which was, you know, who's going to own the payment solutions space going forward? I watched an interview on Bloomberg TV, I think it was, just about a month ago with Howard Schultz, yeah, the Starbucks guy, and he was saying, you know, this is a space I want to be in. We have millions of transactions every day. Why can't Starbucks be the payment solutions provider for the world? And I was thinking, I'm not sure about that. I don't quite know why. I think that might not happen, but it doesn't quite ring true to me. And Tony, I know you've got some thoughts on that, on who's going to be there. MasterCard, Visa, we know have pedigree. Then there are the networks underpinning that. Who's going to own this space?
Well, you're quite right. There are all sorts of people who want to get in on this act and be the intermediary between the retailer and the customer. Because that gives you access to the data. In some cases, it gives you ownership of the customer, or at least of the customer data. And in this world of big data, that's a hugely powerful thing. So I can well understand why Starbucks would aspire to that, because having visibility of its customers' transactions across all the different retailers that a consumer might shop from, that's an enormously valuable asset. But I can well see also why other retailers might object to that, to sharing their customers with Starbucks.
I think we have to be very careful about information and big data and how it's used. And it's something I think we'll all learn in time, because the customer today also doesn't understand fully, but definitely there are going to be changes. It's very exciting, but it's also a new world.
But I mean, I guess given your position, who wouldn't want to know? Who wouldn't want access to the big data on Landmark and how its customers are behaving and trying to map the changes in consumer behavior? That's your proprietary data, though, isn't it? That's one of your competitive advantages. But if someone's processing those transactions, someone else, whoever that is, big brother, big data, can see it.
Loyalty for us is very important. We have, the biggest loyalty programs. I mean, between India and the Middle East, we have about 11 million loyalty customers. So that is a lot of data, and it is very important that we kind of know how to use that data well.
I'm going to come to the floor for questions. We've got a few moments for questions. I'll come to you, sir, in just 1 second. Just before that, very quickly, we have one specific question, quite quickly, Tony. I think it's relevant, on Twitter for you. And this is it. Let me find it. And it is for Tony. And so many questions. Thanks very much indeed for all of them. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Tony, here it is. What advice would you give? What steps can bricks and mortar retailers take when they're transitioning to the online space? How do they make that transition?
Well, I think it's always quite hard to give generalized advice across many different sectors. But the advice that Renuka started with, I would say, is absolutely the right one. You've got to start with the customer. And what is the experience that the customer is looking for from you? What are they expecting of your brand? And if they are expecting a full range of, I don't know, consumer electricals, then offering them a very slim range of consumer electricals online is not a good way to go. You've got to actually then, have an offer that's in keeping with the brand. You've also got to understand that consumers are typically, when they come online, looking at your physical store's offer online, they're expecting basically that to be represented effectively. They want to see the full assortment. They want to see what they're going to get when they come into the store. And if you offer a constrained range, for example, that's what they will expect to find in the store. So it's really about putting yourself in the shoes of the customer, walking the journey that they will walk and saying, all right, well, how can digital enhance that customer experience? Watch it through the eyes of the consumer is probably the simplest advice I can give.
Very quickly from Pragna, one more question for Tony. What company globally, in your opinion, is best doing what you call omni-channel?
I think whenever we're asked this question, and we're asked it quite frequently, I say there's no one company that exemplifies all the good things that Omni-Channel can really do. Really, you have to cherry pick across many different retailers. But you know, John Lewis is a very good example, the large department store retailer. I think also Tesco for grocery shopping, Tesco.com is fantastic and has pioneered many things. There's a lot of ideas that we frequently steal from, you know, others like Amazon or Net-a-Porter, or there are so many out there. And the wonderful thing about the web is that actually from your desk you can look at pretty much everything that people are doing and just cherry pick the right ideas and assemble them together. But the key in doing that is to think about who your customer is and what they expect of your brand, and then pick those ideas that are most consonant with that.
I think it's an interesting question, actually. Maybe Renuka, among globally retailers, retail operations, is there an organization or perhaps a person who you look to and say, yeah, you're doing some really, really good things, we can learn from you, I like what you're doing?
I like the examples Tony has taken, because I think that's how you look at it. I mean, the reason John Lewis has done it well is because John Lewis in every way seems to understand their customer. It's not that, you know, maybe it's something they do very differently to the way they do their retail. Even in retail, they've kept a very loyal customer. So it is really about that. I don't think it's been about just technology. It's not just been about product, but it's been about product and technology for a particular customer. That's what makes the difference.
I also like to just cite Selfridges as a fantastic example of Omni-Channel as well. Their offline offering I've gone offline
You're
myself.
back again.
Their offline offering is quite extraordinary. They're very generous in what they give their customers. I remember years ago their whole window frontage was allocated to Sam Taylor Wood's photography. They weren't selling anything. It was just, here's our gift to you. Come celebrate. Come enjoy this photography. You walk inside and there is this frisson of energy and endeavor and a sense of fun. You know, they push and pull lighting. They have something for every pocket. And then you go online and they somehow manage to finesse that and capture that online. They're click and collect. They're a very exciting, dynamic website, you know, with a sense of humor. And we all liked, you know, that sense of entertainment, I think, you know, which Renuka offers at Landmark, you know, that is so important too. Lord Reith, when he was setting up the BBC, said, you know, we're here to inform, educate and entertain, and we all like to have fun as well. So if there's some semblance of fun and, you know, exploration and endeavour, I think that's something to set it aside.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to go to the floor to take a couple of questions. Yes, sir, you had a question. The gentleman directly in front of me. Can we get a microphone to the chair? Raise your hand, sir.
The question is for Renuka. What I wanted to understand is, if you take all the big brick and mortar stores, what was the reason for the delay to move into the online space when there were examples of people doing it good or making it? Was it that, you know, you didn't see a revenue model strong enough for that? Or was it that it was considered a fad for that time period? Because if these big players...
Thanks very much, sir. That's the question. Thank you. Yes, please, Renuka.
I don't think we're really late, but I think we should have started a bit earlier. I think it is about getting a team together and getting... It's never about one person. It's about getting a conviction through a business that it's time to move on and do something. And in fact, it took time to do that with the business. It's not very convenient for brick and mortar to sometimes go into e-commerce. So it takes time.
Thank you very much indeed. The gentleman in the light suit. Yes, please, sir. Thank you indeed.
Hi, I guess it's a question for Renuka. It'd be great to get Tony and Megan's feedback as well. It's very commendable that you said retailers should build multi-channel businesses, but this obviously comes with a big cost when you think about platform, inventory and people. So what are the sorts of investments do you think it takes for a large retailer to develop a fully integrated multi-channel proposition? And with that investment, where do you see the sort of returns in terms of percentage of sales within the Middle East for a retailer such as, I don't know, Baby Shop, is it the baby brand that you have? And then electricals, you know, where are you going to target the sort of growth of those businesses from a e-commerce perspective based on the investments that you think are needed in this region?
Well, without going into specific financials, some sort of general thoughts on that?
No, I'm not going into specifics, but I would say that we're still learning the costs of it. It's still a journey, so we've started it. Is it a cheap journey? It isn't. It's going to be very expensive. But I think it's something which will finally give a return. We're not putting a time and a date to it, but I think we have a great benefit in the way that we can share resources across businesses, and that will make it a bit easier for us.
Tony, your thoughts on that, on weighing up the costs and benefits of going omni-channel? I guess sometimes you crunch the numbers and say no.
Sometimes you do. For a very large value fashion retailer, we did this work not so long ago and came to the conclusion actually that this was not for them. The cost of picking individual items in the warehouse exceeded the margin, the contribution they could get from delivering those items to the customer, and we advised them to stick with stores, which is a very successful business model for them. But in most cases, there is a clear business case for it, and really that's just because that's where customers are going. And I would just say one of the big mistakes that I sometimes see retailers making is to assume that the world will continue as they see it today, that retail growth, store retail growth will continue as it has been going, and that actually they measure the investment and return on investment of e-commerce relative to the cost of the return on investment of opening a few more stores. And the stores will always win if you imagine that the world is going to stay as it is. But actually that's a fallacy, of course. That customers are changing, the balance of economics between channels is shifting, more and more sales are going and will continue to go online. And therefore, if you don't have a stake in this game, you'll be addressing an ever smaller and smaller market with your stores. And that's why the world will stay the same assumption is a fallacious and very dangerous one.
Your thoughts, Megan? I'm particularly thinking of Harrods, where you've been very heavily involved, haven't you, in the past, taking that brand and taking it online.
Yeah, I was actually only an executive director for a very short while. I actually just wanted to agree wholeheartedly. You know, to Australia's detriment, they assumed that they knew the Australian customer, and we should never assume that the customer stays still. It's a movable feast. Their loyalties shift, their need states shift. It is expensive. It is expensive, and not all businesses can afford it. But you should at the very least, have an online presence for customer information purposes. So many people are using m-commerce or e-commerce just to find opening hours and information. So if you can't have a transactional site, I would implore you at the very least just to have that. But let's not forget too that so many brands were reticent. And Harrods was a very complex scenario because there was sort of. And you must have it too, the stores and stores. So you actually don't own the items themselves. But we know the reticence of brands to come on Net-a-Porter. They were worried about dilution, cannibalization, and yet it just made their reach so much broader. It was viable for us. It was viable for the brands. We've heard from Tony that when you use the multi-channel thing, that your sales, you're not cannibalizing from the store. Your sales actually increase. So whilst there is a cost base, absolutely, so but at least a presence, I would advise.
Well, listen, time catches up with us. We're going to have to leave it there. It's been absolutely fascinating talking to all of you. Many, many thanks indeed to our panelists. I'm going to invite you to take a seat back down there and enjoy the next panel. But first of all, to Renuka Jagtiani, the Vice Chairperson of Landmark Group. Thank you very much indeed for your contributions today. It's been fascinating hearing from you. Megan, of course, we enjoyed your talk, and thanks for sharing your thoughts on the Fireside Chat as well. And Tony Stockil, the CEO of Javelin Group, really enjoyed talking to you. Thanks very much indeed for your time.